Hello guys, how are you doing? Welcome back to Rule of Two Review. So as we're slowly counting down the days and weeks until the Nintendo Switch launches, I started thinking about all of the different things that we're all getting prepared to do, the games that we're getting ready to buy, the space that we're making underneath our TVs for our Switches, the carrying cases we're all preparing to have for the actual tablet controllers, and myriad other things, such as accessories. And with accessories comes the conversation about all those weird and wacky Nintendo Switch controllers. Of course, the big conversation around controllers centers around the Pro Controller and the Joy-Cons, the two initial ways to play the Nintendo Switch. Now, the weird sort of asterisk to that is that, of course, the Joy-Cons come in three different ways to play it, either in the grip, separately apart with two different people, or, of course, attached to the Switch tablet controller itself, which is freaking awesome. And again, as somebody who had a chance to play it in New York City a couple of weeks ago, I can tell you they feel great. You've heard me say it before. But what about that Pro Controller? That's the thing that has most of us regular and hardcore gamers really excited about the potential of the Switch. I think that having that thing available and showcasing it so early on with the reveal of the Switch was one of the smartest things Nintendo has done. And of course, it's the controller that most people are preparing to buy. Everyone started pre-ordering like crazy as soon as those pre-orders went live a few weeks ago. And as we all know, they've become harder and harder to find and reserve. I think for the most part, you can't even reserve one right now. As far as I know, I think like GameStop and Best Buy, Amazon, the big places that most people would go to buy these things, I don't think they're available right now. So I started to think and realize, okay, I have the unique perspective of having been able to play the Nintendo Switch, of course, in New York City a couple of weeks ago. Like I said, Robert from Gaming with Me and myself were fortunate enough to go because we were invited to do so. And so now that I've had a chance to basically get my hands all over all of the different form factors for the Nintendo Switch and those controllers, I felt that with a couple of weeks to go, maybe it would be kind of beneficial for myself to sort of discuss with you guys my feelings on these two different controllers a little bit more thoroughly than I did in some of my initial videos where I was showcasing all of the footage and whatnot from the event, and sort of give my perspective and my suggestion on whether or not it's something that you really need to worry about having that Pro Controller right away on launch day for $70. And it should also be noted that that $70 price tag was one of the main reasons I wanted to kind of make this video, because there's so many people who are like, I have to have that Pro Controller. It's the only way I'm going to play any video game. It's the only way I want to play the Switch. But then, of course, there are a lot of people saying, well, it's $70. It's too much money. It's Nintendo gouging us, you know, completely ignoring the fact that other controllers for Sony and Microsoft go from anywhere from $60 to $150. But we're not going to talk about that stuff today. The point is, a lot of people have pointed out that it is, to be fair, a fairly expensive controller for a Nintendo console. For any console, it really is a lot of money to have to pay for a secondary controller, and especially because it's the controller that we all know is most ideal for most regular games, and all of us really, really want it. So of course, as I've already mentioned in this video, and most of you who are familiar with me already know, I was able to go and play the Nintendo Switch with Robert from the channel Gaming With Me a few weeks ago, right after Nintendo's Tokyo event. In fact, earlier today was brought to my attention that Nintendo's video that they put on their YouTube channel today featuring the fan event in New York City, which happened on January 15th. Of course, we went to the invite-only event on the 14th. But that video, which is like 3.5 minutes long, actually features both Robert and myself in a couple of segments, which is really pretty cool to know we actually got into a video that is available on Nintendo's YouTube page, like put together through them. That is freaking just so free. It's so cool. Like, I'm so happy with that. But anyway, because of that, what I wanted to do with this video today is actually share with you guys, through my knowledge and firsthand experience with the Nintendo Switch, whether or not we all really need to feel like that Pro Controller is something that we need to pick up on launch day, on March 3rd, 2017. Is it important or necessary for us, for myself, and for you guys out there to plop down that extra $70 to have that controller? And I gotta tell you guys, I've loved every single controller, all the Joy-Con stuff, all the tablet stuff, and the Pro Controller like crazy. You are, of course, watching a whole bunch of footage of myself and probably some of Robert smattered in there as well, of us playing the actual controllers and the Switch in New York City. And I have to tell you guys, even as a fan of all of those controllers, I will tell you that ultimately, I would say a little bit yes, but mostly no. So don't let that fool you. The Pro Controller is absolutely spectacular, and it's one of the best versions of that controller I've ever played for every console. With my limited hands-on time, I can't say it's the best. I am a really big fan of the Xbox One controller, but the Nintendo Switch Pro controller is definitely in the conversation of one of the best I've ever played of that kind of standard style that we deal with now. So I don't want to make it sound like it isn't freaking amazing and that everyone should have it. But I gotta say, it's less of a conversation about how maybe the Pro Controller isn't worth it right away, and more of a conversation of how successfully I think Nintendo designed the Joy-Cons, and particularly when they're in the grip. Now, when I did have a chance to play it in New York, I was fortunate in the sense that the very first thing we did was play The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, featuring the Joy-Cons in the grip. So that's really one of the jumping off points I was using in my brain to think, man, I probably should make this video. I'd like to talk about these controllers and tell people what I think about if it's worth $70 day one to pick up a Pro Controller or not. So being that that's the first thing we did, you're talking about a game that is a third-person action game where you have complete control of your camera. I've talked about this a few times and on some of the podcasts I've been on as well. That is a game that you would typically associate with a Pro Controller, an Xbox One controller, a DualShock, the Wii U's Pro Controller, what have you, standard third-person camera controlling action game. And the Joy-Cons in the grip are the way that the Nintendo Switch is actually being sold to us. It's what Nintendo is pushing for the most part. All of the marketing, all the advertising, everything Nintendo is doing is showing the Switch tablet controller in the dock and the Joy-Cons in the grip. That is the imagery that Nintendo is putting out there to the world to sell people on the Switch. So they're really pushing that, and it's what comes in the box. So having been able to play a game like that with that controller setup standard first, that very first time I ever touched anything Switch related, I have to tell you guys that really Nintendo did, like I said, very successfully design those Joy-Cons in that grip to absolutely and very successfully pull off the feeling of a standard Pro Controller. I mean, when you look at those two Joy-Cons in the grip and that whole little dog face controller thing everyone jokes about, you've got the absolute industry standard button layout in front of you. You've got two triggers on the left and right. You've got the analog on the left with the D-pad directions below it. Yes, it's not a traditional D-pad, and that is a negative, absolutely. But you can still do anything a D-pad would let you do with the left side of those Joy-Cons. You've got an up, down, left, and right. That is exactly what a freaking D-pad does. So you've got that on the left Joy-Con. The right Joy-Con also has the analog, has your A, B, X, Y. You got your start button, you got your home button, you got everything you need on those Joy-Cons in the grip. And I have to say that for the most part, not entirely, which I'm going to touch on in a second, but for the most part, they feel great that way. Like that is the absolute industry standard button layout that comes in the box with your Switch for no additional money. People want to talk about hidden costs. There's no hidden cost there. You get everything you could possibly need to play any single game, whether it's a Nintendo game or a third-party game, with those Joy-Cons. And they work. And because of that, I have realized for myself, I'm going to personally wait to pick up a Pro Controller for that exact reason, because I feel like the Joy-Cons in the grip absolutely get the job done. Now, let's talk about a couple of other things, though, because when it comes to the analog sticks of the Joy-Cons, and again, some folks might have heard me on podcasts talking about this as well, I will admit one thing. Even though they're great and they get the job done, and I was able to play Zelda running around and controlling the speed of my run and changing the cameras I needed to, there's something I have to say about those analog sticks, and that is that they do not ultimately feel as good as what a standard Pro Controller or even the Switch's Pro Controller offers. The Switch Pro Controller analog sticks are great. They're some of the best that I've ever played, and I have to say that the analog sticks on the Joy-Cons don't have the most travel. It's the number one thing I've talked about ever since I started talking about the Switch, since I got my hands on it, is as great as those Joy-Cons are and as awesome as they were in the grip, yeah, the travel for the analog sticks doesn't feel the same. Like, you only have so much room before you've literally hit the end of the little kind of thing around where the nub is, and it's like, wow, I've already traveled by my entire distance. And that might not seem like a big deal, but when you are playing a game like Zelda or Splatoon, for example, that suddenly becomes apparent. It's like, wow, like it's a little bit harder to have a lot of finesse when you're controlling your camera. You can do it. The travel to allow you to control the speed of your run and camera movement is certainly present in those Joy-Cons, but it's definitely going to take some adjusting. It doesn't feel as good or as intuitive or as free range as a standard Pro Controller or as the awesome Switch Pro Controller. And that is a negative, you guys. I'm not going to lie. It is a little bit too bad. Also, the triggers are a little bit small. They're there. They work. They do feel ultimately great as far as their placement, but they are small. And I kept having some trouble, remembering and realizing which one I was pressing at which given time. Granted, I haven't had time to sit down and actually own all of these controllers and get used to them like we normally would, but in that initial setting, and as somebody who's incredibly familiar with all of the button layouts on controllers nowadays, I definitely struggled at first to get used to those triggers and those analog sticks. Now, if we're going to talk about the Pro Controller, I am going to have to go back to what I was saying earlier. It's great, you guys. It's freaking great. If we were going to talk about why it is worth it to pick up a Pro Controller, it's going to be because A, it's incredibly comfortable, B, it is the industry standard controller beyond just the standard button layout that's also present on the Joy-Cons. It's the shape and the feel and the comfort of that Pro Controller that is going to feel very familiar to all of us, and especially folks who maybe haven't gamed on a Nintendo console in a while and are so used to their Xbox and PlayStation controllers. This Pro Controller for the Switch absolutely is just as good as those, and maybe even in some cases better, depending on who you are or how you feel. It feels great. And when comparing it to like the Wii U Pro Controller, for example, which is a fantastic controller, the Switch Pro Controller has a lot more weight to it. And that is something that I really, really enjoyed and liked. And it's one of the few things I didn't like about the Wii U's Pro Controller, is the Switch Pro Controller really lets you know you've got the real deal here. You paid $70 for this frickin' thing? Well, it feels like a $70 controller. Not to mention that, as we all know and have discussed many times, it has the revolutionary brand new technology that is HD Rumble built into it, and it has gyro sensing, and you've even seen some footage here on this video today of me using that with Splatoon, and it was awesome. That works so well. It is so responsive, and Nintendo was willing to incorporate their tried and true motion controls into what is an otherwise standard controller, which does, in my opinion, effectively make it a better controller than any other controller on the market. Even though I feel like the weight and comfort of the Xbox One controller is still better than the Switch's, the fact that the Switch has that extra tech and extra ability built into it has to, like, on paper, make it the better controller. And that is something that cannot be undersold, and I don't want to have that understated as I sit here and tell you why I don't think it's mandatory to have this controller. At the end of the day, you guys, a Pro Controller is a Pro Controller. It's the way we're all familiar with gaming, and it is the best way to play any game, even something on the Switch that doesn't require specific Joy-Con functionality. If you're just talking about a game that lets you do A, B, X, Y, analog sticks and triggers and all that stuff, the Pro Controller is the ideal way to play, even over the Joy-Cons and the grip, absolutely. But the point of this video, in wrapping this whole thing up, you guys, is to tell you that I want you all to know, if anyone's either struggling with the fact that they can't get a Pro Controller pre-ordered, or struggling with the fact that, oh god, it's another $70, I don't have that much money, or maybe I wanted to spend that on a game and I don't want to have to sacrifice a game to buy a Pro Controller. I mean, I'm here to tell you guys that honestly, if that's the situation you're in, I would say don't stress it. Don't worry about spending that $70. Save that cash. Either save it for yourself, put it towards another game, or whatever. And just know that those Joy-Cons and that grip, everything Nintendo is putting in the box for you, will get the job done and not hinder your experience of playing any single kind of game. Whether you're playing a game like Zelda, whether you're playing a game like Splatoon, whether you're playing a game like Street Fighter, whether you're playing a game like 1-2 Switch. All of these different things and everything else, Fast Remix, whatever, you can get it done with the awesome Joy-Cons that Nintendo is giving you in the box for no extra money, no quote-unquote hidden costs. So I feel like that was an important message to get out and across to you guys. I mean, make no mistake, the Pro Controller is super rad, and everyone should eventually have it. We all know that the best way to play a video game in 2017 is with a controller like the Pro Controller, so we should all have it at some point. And if you can easily afford it and get it pre-ordered, yeah, absolutely buy it. But if you're struggling, or you're on the fence, or you're not sure if it's worth it for you to plunk down 70 extra freaking dollars, then I say don't. And just know and be satisfied that the Joy-Cons coming with the Switch are super awesome, and they're going to get the job done, and you'll be totally fine just waiting for a Pro Controller like I'm doing. Someone who's played the Switch and all of these controllers, and I'm waiting to pick up a Pro Controller, so I feel like you're probably in good shape. So this was all just my opinion. I want everyone to remember I'm not sitting here telling you the absolute fact. You might hear from other people who would tell you the exact opposite, and if they have good reasons to justify it, then good on them, and maybe that makes more sense for you. But for me, for myself, and my experience with the Switch and all the controllers, this is how I feel. It's a great controller, the Pro Controller is, but I think that a lot of us can wait and save that $70 for the time being. So, what do you guys think? Was this helpful? Was this information that maybe you found interesting or insightful and is helping you make a different purchasing or buying decision than you otherwise would have, or alleviate your stresses of not being able to find or afford a Pro Controller? If so, I really hope so, and let me know in the comments below what you thought about this whole thing. And I think that's pretty much it for today, guys. So thanks, of course, for tuning in. This is Rob of Rule of Two Review, and I will catch you guys next time on another video.